How's my hair? Terrible? Perfect. Okay. Welcome to No Chaser. I'm David, and today's video is going to be something I meant to talk about for some time now. It is about DXM abuse, or dextromethorphan, or dex, or robo tripping, or anyways, so this is a drug that comes in cough syrup. It comes in Robitussin, it comes in Delsum. I'm more of a Mucinex man myself. We're going to be making some jokes here, even though it's a serious topic, but why not? And this is not to be confused with DMX abuse, which is overly listening to the rapper DMX. It's so hard. I may even say DMX during this video a couple of times. But I can refer to it as Dex. But anyways, it's an over-the-counter, cough medication. It's the key ingredient is dextromethorphan. And so the abuse, of course, is you could surmise that it's the overtaking of it. And you would go, why would one overtake it? Now, amongst the giant scale of drugs, the DXM is known sometimes in some circles as the drug you take when you've ran out of drugs. When basically, this is why a lot of teenagers will take it, and they'll take the cough syrup, which is the instant release. They'll chug the whole bottle, and they'll start robo-tripping, there's a lot of dissociative effects with DXM. Now, I didn't do that when I was 17, because apparently I was smarter at 17 than I was at the age of 35, because that's when I first started using it. And the reason I used it, I don't have to get into the whole story. It's, and I don't even need a whole story, really. I got addicted to something. It just happened to come in a different way, but, same thing. Addiction's addiction, so I got hooked on it because it was something I did instead of drink. And it was something that I did every once in a while. I didn't consider myself sober because I was not clean. But at the time, it was just something to basically get by. And drinking had such bad consequences that I was just like, well, this DXM stuff is not too bad at the time. Because the DXM, as for its effects, it can be sedative. It affects people maybe a little bit differently than others. What I did was, because there's two ways you can take it. Well, actually, there's a couple different ways. There is, of course, the syrup, Delsum. I don't know if I have to, say this is not an ad for any of these things. I would hope not, but maybe YouTube will be strike, because you're talking bad on cough medications. This is the overuse. I can't stress that enough. But, so anyways, it comes in the syrups. So you have your Robitussin, you have your Delsum, you have your just basically any cough medication that comes in a syrup. And it comes in pill form. And that's what I took, was the pill form. Now, you could still, in each of these things, the syrup or the pills, you can get immediate release or extended release. And what I was taking was the extended release because I didn't want to trip balls when I took it. I just wanted something to take the edge off. And for some people, it's just super sedative, and so they're like, bleh. And, that's basically it. They just feel way too tired, and they feel a little bit loopy, and it's not fun. For some people that take it, though, just the same way that other drugs can affect people differently, I felt a slight sense of euphoria. I felt the sedation, but in a kind of a warm, again, euphoric way, which is something that I had gotten addicted to opiates for. It was a little bit reminiscent of that, and it did have some trippier effects. It's I'm not a big weed head. I don't smoke pot or anything like that, but it's what I imagine that people like about pot use, where it was things would be a little bit enhanced, listening to music or eating food or something like that would be. And I enjoyed it because I take this extended release and it would last for quite a long time. And when I took it, it wasn't to a level where I was crazy out of it. Now the problem is this, with any drugs, that you get a tolerance to it, which means you have to take more to get the same effect. And so I started to have to take more, and I took it with more frequency. And then the craziest thing kind of occurred, where sometimes it would just be that sort of that happy sedation, And then sometimes things would get real weird. Like the trippiness would come where it felt like, and I'm not talking like hallucinations or anything like that, but just a weird sense of the way that reality is. Like, I would feel sometimes that I would, like that music was like speaking to me, or I remember I would be like, um, driving home from work, and this is after taking it like way earlier in the day, and I'd feel kind of normal, and then like lights seemed different, like they seemed brighter or something like that. Just these kind of little things. Now when you take like the immediate release and you take it all at once, that's when things can get really weird. And the robo tripping, the reason why it's called that is that there is Robitussin is one of the brands, but it's also because it like does this weird thing where the way it does with your muscles, it like stiffens things. So like they joke about it because you like walk like a robot because your legs are really stiff. I remember that I couldn't, like when I was working out, I couldn't like bend my legs normally. It felt like my thigh muscles were like frozen. And then there was these other effects that got worse where it started to affect me like cognitively, like in this sort of brain dead way, and I couldn't like speak. I started having like this marbled mouth, and I couldn't like say multisyllabic words really well or at all. And the scarier part is that it started happening like even like days after I had taken it, and I was like gonna quit and not take it anymore. And then it occurred more like in those days where I just couldn't like talk or read things normally. And it started to get really scary. And this is like the outer sort of effects, the more external things you could see. As far as the internal things you can not see, like DXM is taking large amounts of that, and especially any of the materials that come in like sort of cough medication to which you take to get the high, is like it annihilates your stomach. Like it's really bad for your stomach. It's one of the things that like obviously as like time goes on, you can do harder drugs, and the effects of those like are really really bad for the body, like especially drinking and stuff. But as like per use, like pound for pound, DXM is incredibly unhealthy for the body. And I had actually over time and by the way, my whole journey on this like was like from when I first used it to the end of it was 6 months. It wasn't even that long. It just ratcheted it up like really quickly. And I've been clean off of it for almost a month now, and it's it's really strange because like I said, I had some insurances don't take it as seriously as other drugs, like so it's known as this weird sort of drug that's like a one-time deal, like I said, for like teenagers that they just goof off on, like kind of in the level of like whipped cream like inhalants or aerosol, or I don't know, just huffing like paint thinner or something, where it's just seen as like I said, like kind of a once in a while thing and not really something you get addicted to. But again, the way that it can affect your body, like I know some people with like opiates who first tried Vicodin and they're like, all that did was just make me tired and feel sick, and I got my face a little flushed, and I hate that. How can you get addicted to that? And I would retort, how could you not get addicted to that? The euphoria it produces and all that, like the good warmth. What are you talking about? It just affects people differently. Like I hated, like I said, marijuana, which like I'm a big supporter in like its legalization, and like I'm super pro weed, except I absolutely do not like smoking weed. But just the way it affects my body, I don't like it very much. And there's millions and millions of people who would argue with that, but those are the same thing with this DXM thing. It just kind of crept into my life in this really weird way, and it started all one night just as trying to do just a little bit. I mean, a lot more than you're supposed to, but a little bit to get away the drinking cravings, and then it's turned into this complete cross addiction. And so if there's any, like the funniest thing is, I was going to say, if there's any people watching this that aren't like addicted or dealing with addiction problems, you're just wondering about it, like mothers for their kids out there. Because the funny thing is that I would look at some of the bottles and it would say, parents, here's what to know about this drug so your stupid teenagers doesn't abuse it. And here I am at 35 abusing it. I'm just like, ugh. But it doesn't matter. What's addictive is addictive, like people can get addicted to all sorts of substances, and if it negatively affects their life, it's something serious. And mine became something serious. I genuinely was worried about like the cognitive effects it did to my head. I got like a a full like physical health check, and I wanted to check my stomach too, because like the ellipses or something that is like they test with your stomach was high. It wasn't anything irreversible, but it like if you do it over years, because mine was a short time. If you do it over years, it can do some serious damage. Not to mention that if this is a cross addiction and you're doing it and you're drinking on top of that or doing it with other drugs, it's just kind of crazy. So DXM is this basically sort of a sedative, and it's over the counter. So it's this weird thing where basically like you have to be, I don't know, only 18 to buy it, but it's really not like you can't buy cigarettes, but you can buy this stuff. And because it's just completely seemingly innocuous. It's just like, well, it's just cough syrup. No one's going to do anything with that unless they're coughing. And now, I feel great every time I have a cough because it means I've been clean off of it. I go, oh man, way to go, David. So anyways, that's basically DXM and DXM abuse in a completely non-professional, non-medical sort of opinion. So hopefully that helps you out if you're wondering what is this crazy stuff, and if you're wondering if your teenagers are doing it. Your teenagers or your 35-year-olds. Anyways, that's all I got.